Hello and welcome to BQ Prime. The minutes of the MPC were published last week. Dr. Shashanka Bhide had some interesting commentary on both inflation and growth trends. Today, he joins us for a conversation delving a little bit deeper into all of these. Sir, thank you so very much for taking time out.
Thank you.
So, to begin with, in your commentary, you have highlighted some of the concerns in growth and inflation. And of course, taking all of these factors into consideration, the RBI forecasts inflation to gradually decline to about 5.2% by the end of this fiscal. So what I want to ask you is this pace of decline comfortable for the MPC, considering time and again we have seen both external members as well as internal RBI members reaffirm that the inflation target is 4% and not the range for plus or minus 2%?
Yes, I think the objective or the goal is the target rate of 4%, and the deceleration in the inflation rate, while it is gradual, but it is also based on the expectations and the projections of the growth also. So I think we are at a stage where the growth momentum has been sustained. But I think we also have a lot of risks associated with both the trajectories. So in that sense, I think the gradual decline in the inflation rate is something that is reasonable at this time.
Absolutely. So, you have also mentioned about the uneven pace of economic growth we've seen. Also, investment spending at this juncture rising at a faster pace than consumption. Are these concerns to watch out for in a slightly longer time frame from a medium-term angle as well?
So I think we at the moment we are looking at the shorter-term trajectories of growth and inflation, and on the next 4 quarters or so. So in that sense, the uneven trend is a concern because I think for sustainable growth, we require all components of the demand to grow in a significant way. So in that sense, I think the uneven trends are a concern, which is where I think the changes are required. So I guess as we have also noted, there is this weak global environment, and we have also had a somewhat erratic monsoon rainfall this year. So I think this also has led to these uneven trends.
Sure. So on the erratic monsoons, also the impact in the coming months of all of these trends on inflation, do you now feel there is need for continuing supply side interventions that we have seen so far, even by the government?
Yes, I think the spikes in inflation we saw in July and August this year, I think were obviously because of specific items in the food basket. But I think the overall concerns from the rainfall situation during this season, I think has meant that we may have pressures in the food inflation front. And in that sense, the supply side measures are more effective, I think, in addressing this issue than other policies. So in this sense, I think the need for supply side measures, whether it is improving the supply chains or improving the availability of the items, this is where I think the supply side measures are more effective.
Sure. Also, your colleagues have highlighted the impact of the data that we have seen from the RBI on household savings, at least in the coming quarters, that is being seen more as a positive, as it is expected to give some kind of a fillip to demand and consumption trends. Would that be your view as well on the decline we have seen, the modest decline in household savings?
I think we should be concerned about the impact on consumption. I think in these trends also, because I think the increased liabilities, financial liabilities, for example, if they are for meeting consumption requirements, And I think it is, if it is a short-term sort of indicator, short-term phenomenon, then I think it is sustainable. But I think given the trends that we have seen in consumption so far, it is necessary that the consumption is backed by higher income rather than just increasing financial liabilities. So I think in the short term also, they are pointed to the need for increased income. That is where I think the growth momentum is important.
Sure. Okay. So another concern on growth has been the commentary on rural trends so far. The MPC appears to believe that rural demand is showing signs of recovery. Aren't signs from the rural economy fairly mixed at this stage?
Yes, I think the indicators have been mixed for rural scenario. I think so. So part of the reason, obviously, is the fact that we have not had a very favorable monsoon this year. So in that sense, I think the momentum for consumption in the rural sector, I mean, it would not be so favorable. But there are, I think, certain indicators where the rural consumption demand is picking up. Actually, I think so. It would be interesting to see the impact of the festival season on consumption demand. So I think in that sense, in the short term, if the better urban demand, sort of stimulates the rural demand as well, that would be a good sign. But I think otherwise the rural demand is catching up. But I think a lot of this improvement in consumption demand is in the sort of essential items of consumption and so on. We don't see the momentum in all sectors as far as the rural demand is concerned.
So, considering some of these factors that we have touched upon, would it be fair to say that at this juncture, for both inflation as well as growth, risks are balancing towards the downside?
As far as the growth is concerned, the first quarter numbers that we have seen, they suggest that there is a fairly good momentum as far as growth is concerned. But the sort of caution is in terms of the unevenness of this growth. As we have seen, there has been growth in certain sectors like infrastructure, and construction, for example, significantly faster than the growth in the other sectors. Services growth has been reasonably good, but manufacturing growth has just begun to recover. So I think as far as the growth is concerned, there are risks to the sustaining of the momentum. But as far as inflation is concerned, I think at the moment, while the projections are for this decline in the inflation rate towards the end of the financial year, the concerns, I think, are from these geopolitical tensions, and I think how well the post-monsoon weather conditions hold for the next Rabi crop. So I think that is one of the reasons I think we would like to, I am in favor of waiting for how these trends develop in the short term at this time.
Okay, and how do you see the impact of higher US bond yields, higher crude prices, and a stronger dollar weighing on the Indian economy?
I think it's probably, now the global conditions in terms of the tight monetary conditions that are there in advanced economies and so on. And so these have an impact globally on the emerging economies, I mean, with respect to the capital flows, with respect to the currency and so on. So I think these are the risks that are there that need to be dealt with or that need to be looked at. So I think at the moment, the global conditions are sort of, they require more caution. And I think what we have seen so far, the global concerns with respect to the geopolitical tensions. So they also need to be watched at this time.
Sure. So one last question before we let you go. So the expectation at this juncture is that the MPC will hold rates for the foreseeable future. The question, however, is when the MPC, will cut rates, and if it should give a little more clarity on that in its resolutions. What are your views on that?
I think what is clear is that we should continue to make progress, I guess, in reaching the target, inflation target that is the mandate of the committee. So in that sense, I think the rate change decisions, rate cut decisions, rate change decisions, I mean, they depend a lot on what the projections are in the short term sense in the next 4 quarters or so. So I think getting to a sustainable rate of inflation, which is close to 4%, that is that is what is required. It's not so much of the timeline, I think, but it is the sustained reduction in the inflation rate to the target level. I mean, that is what is important as far as the policy is concerned.
All right. Thank you so much for taking time out for this conversation. This was most informative.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.